Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Avid CNC live stream. And we are so honored to be hanging out and talking with Izzy Swan today. Hey, Izzy, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm sorry about last week, y'all.
You sound amazing. This is great. We're
Well,
just
guys,
thrilled.
we tried. I tried, guys. We got on. We got on. All three of us, Ron and Corey and Sammy looked. They looked. You could see their faces like, no, this isn't gonna work. So my voice was just gone.
Yeah, well, you sound
So,
much better, and we're glad you got to, rest up and get some tea. And yeah, last week was a great live stream too, and we're thrilled that you're here with us this week. We really
Yeah,
appreciate the flexibility. And
oh no, it's always fun hanging out with you guys.
yeah. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Let us know where you're calling in from or joining in from. We'd love to know where you are. And uh, if you have any questions for Izzy throughout, please drop that in the chat and we will pitch it to him.
yeah. And thank you so much for making this happen this week, Izzy. I know you got a bunch of stuff on your plate right now. I hope we get to talk about some of that and
Sure.
how you're
Yeah, that'd be
leveraging the
great.
shop to help your community right now and keep things trucking.
Right
Yeah.
on. I look forward to it for sure. For sure.
There's one thing I want to share with everyone really quick. I'm going to share the Makers Playground website really
Yeah,
quick. So if you all are not on Makers Playground yet, you need to go download this app and make a profile and come hang out with all the makers.
Aw,
It,
thanks, guys.
yeah, I what I love about it is it kind of it's all the best things of social media, and it's social media specifically for makers. And we get to,
Yep.
you can curate that on Instagram to some extent, but this really kind of puts us in the same room. It kind of feels like, going to a maker conference, but you're there all the time. You just get to be
right.
surrounded by these amazing community. And so I love it. Please go join us and come hang out with us there. Um,
Right on.
can
And
you tell us a
to be
little bit
clear,
about it?
yeah, to be clear, it's an app for your cell phone. You can access it from your computer, but after you've joined through the cell phone, and it's in both Android and Apple Play stores, so you can find it there. It's just Maker's Playground. Type that into your search, and it'll pop up. Free to join. If you want to support us, there's also a way to do that financially. It's like $9 a month. We appreciate it. Not necessary at all, guys. Um, but that's exactly I think you summed it up best. It is a social media app for makers. It is literally like a combination between Facebook and Instagram and the way that it performs, and it's all maker all day. And it's
Yeah.
just we have a great crew. I promoted it a couple of times and just kind of let it lie, and that was a year ago, and it just keeps growing, and we keep getting this really amazing group of people in there from from CNC guys, from guys like myself who've been in the industry for 30 years to guys and gals that are just starting out. And it's not just woodworking, y'all. We got people in there that are doing knitting and cartoon stuff and books and leather work and metal guys. And it's just it's like you said, Sammy. It's like when you get a group of people together who are
Hmm.
passionate about a particular thing. In our case, it's creating and building and making.
Yeah.
Um, from all walks of life, from all kinds of folks up and down the spectrum, and it is a really the vibe there is just once you get into it and you start feeling that vibe, you don't leave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we got
exactly.
a great crew over there.
There's a couple things I always say is making is a team sport. You
Yeah.
can't necessarily move those sheets of plywood all by yourself all the time, or that 2,000-pound sculpture. And everyone is a maker. I have some friends who have traditional jobs, and they're like, "Oh, I don't make things." I'm like, "Well, do you cook? Do you write poems? Do you do, I don't know, make craft, scrapbooks or something?" Everyone is a maker. It's kind of a trick question, honestly. So, but it's nice to have this space for all of us to share in that, no matter what your medium and your process is.
Hmm.
So, thank you
Yeah.
for pioneering that. It's awesome.
Uh, I felt like it was a space that was needed, and
Hmm.
we started out a few years back with tool masters, and we went through a few bumps in the road, and how does this look? Why is it, how can we make this better? And ultimately it came down to, we just kept seeing it right in front of us, where there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's
Mm-hmm.
these things that we're seeing, and they're already working. So why not just take, that type of platform and make it very specific, so we sussed out a company in England that already built the framework for something similar to this, and those guys are great at Disciple. Devobal helped me put it together. These things are not cheap, guys. Let me
Yeah.
tell you. But it was a 6-month project, and when we got it done and we put it out there, and now it's just, I haven't promoted it a lot, and I may not. I like it the way it is, because it's organically growing now.
Mm-hmm.
Other people are going, hey, you got to check this out, and people are coming, and it's just powerful when you really dig into it and you get built in. When you start kind of, you can't just jump in and expect everybody to come running up to you and give you hugs, even though that kind of happens. Once you start getting involved in this, it becomes this whole. You become part of this whole network and this whole community of makers, and it's really cool to watch it happen, especially with new folks coming in who start getting active, and then more and more people. We have the regulars. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
that's neat.
it's nice
So
to see things grow organically and grow kind of by word of mouth. That's very similar to Avid CNC. Like we have never done traditional marketing, and we kind of just do by word of mouth. And we are so grateful because a lot of our, it's our customers who rep us, and because we can try to help curate their good experience. And I think that's really interesting to see that a lot of makers are taking to more word of mouth, crowd-funded type of projects, like with the Maker
right.
Knife and that sort of thing. Um, and even kind of organically growing their platforms too. So, well, awesome. Let's see. What are we going to talk about? I know we kind of mentioned this last week, was your one string tensegrity. Is that how you
Yeah.
say it?
Technically, one string isn't tensegrity, because tensegrity typically means compression or
Oh.
pulling against each other,
Mm-hmm.
which never happens in this case. So basically, we just create a platform, in which case we can stretch out a string, and then bolt things to it, and
Yeah.
it's really not much different than taking a board and putting a board in place of where the string is. In this case, we've just modeled those stuff, so we tension the string between two components, and then we
Mm-hmm.
can loop different components around it.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't look like it should work, which is kind of the cool aspect of the tensegrity world, and especially when you look at it with just one string, you're like, no way, that can't be possible. But um, gotta love engineering, man.
No, it's so cool. It's so cool. And I'm
So
glad you're having, I think that's something I love about your channel is that you have really fun projects and then really practical ones. The variety of kinds of content that you put out, I think it's kind of the content I like to consume. I want a little bit of variety in the kinds of things, and you have such a trusted opinion. And I love to see, makers having fun in the shop, but also like really trying to refine the tools that they have and, that kind of thing.
thank you so much for saying that. 'Cause sometimes it just feels like bipolar chaos just slammed into
Mm.
video content,
Mm-hmm.
but there really is method behind the madness. We're trying to kind of, I know from when we started on YouTube 7 years ago, we've always been said, kind of specialize, specialize. I'm like, I don't really want to. So
Yeah.
I want to have fun builds. I want to have practical builds. I want to have educational stuff. I want to, show some pro tips, and even talk about tools from time to time when I think it's prudent, to do so. So, that's been kind of what we're doing, and it's working.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's working.
Yeah, I loved your tool review video this week. You definitely showed me a couple tools that I hadn't seen before, and definitely one in the shop.
Cool. We're trying to, because YouTube likes a lot of content, and as when you're trying to create projects, it's hard to get a lot of content out, unless they're just everyday silly projects. So by doing the tool stuff, that helps us get an extra video out a week. We do make some money through the affiliate links, which is very helpful, especially since I just brought on a videographer. So I have two full
Mm.
timers now. So we're really trying to figure out what that looks like and how we can maintain that, because the guys, Austin is awesome. He took a bunch of footage that I thought was absolutely useless, because there was a bunch of shake to it and stuff, and he made it work. And I'm just like, You're wonderful.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I would have had to just throw it away and start it from scratch. But you know, so we're trying to put a whole team together to make a lot of good stuff happen in the near future. We're working on some really crazy fun stuff.
Yeah, it's always fun when you have a team too. You know, it just kind of
Oh,
brings that energy and yeah.
Yeah, and we feed off each other, and we're getting, you know, even though Austin's fairly new, Brad and Austin and I are kind of developing this, you know, that relationship, that kind of camaraderie that you like to see. And I always said I can dig ditches as long as I'm doing it next to somebody I like being around. So,
yeah.
you know, and
Sure.
that's we're really getting there quick. So, and it's been a lot of fun to watch, and I think it's going to bring us to some really cool places.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on expanding your team.
Thank you.
That's a big step, I feel like.
For me, it is. It's like I'm a micromanager, so giving up that little bit of control, you know, it was important for me to do, but it took me only 7 years to do it. So,
Yeah, well, you know, it's like it is trying to put trust in other people, but I think once you can do that, you can, they are specialty and they're specializing in their field for a reason, whether it's videography or making things, and knowing that you can transfer that and trust them to make those decisions. You're like, okay, well, it's such a relief once you're able to take that step. We have a question from Richard. He's wondering, Izzy's caterpillars, is, they're really cool. It's a nice compliment. Are there any plans available?
no.
Yeah, but
Um, I basically wrote, so a little insight into how my brain works. A lot of times with these projects, there's not a complete plan set. I'll write the files I need for parts, not design the whole thing.
Hmm.
So in that case, I just wrote the files I needed for the parts to build it, and not I never did like 3D to model the entire build. So at that point, that you know, if you don't have a 3D model, it's hard to make plans for it. So
yeah, but I
and
think that's something interesting to think about, the way different folks make things and the different ways they think about making things. And you have a really strong skill set in designing and problem solving as you go throughout the fabrication process, rather than completely working out in a design every single possible, you think through all of the possible things that could go wrong before. But that some people prefer to do that. I think either way, you're investing time in different places, and it depends where your strengths are. Like your strengths are improvising solutions, whereas some people like to just 3D model everything in detail beforehand. So I
mm,
think you just have to look at those different things. And
yeah, that's definitely part of it. And to, you know, not to sound like I'm horning my own toot here, but I've been doing this a super long time, so I can pretty much see you know, things like the caterpillar, and it isn't super complicated. I know it kind of seems like it might be, but if you came over and I showed you, you'd be like, "That's it." Like, yeah, I know it's kind of disappointing when you just see, you know, how the one mechanism works, and we just take this one mechanism and then we multiply it like 30 times. Ta-da, caterpillar. So, you know, so I kind of I see the 3D model before I even start designing it, and then in most cases I don't even write 3D. I just write 2D files and cut them out, you know, because I already know it's all going to work. Things the like the dinosaur, the Bob T-Rex. That was a little bit of a different story. Again, I didn't have CNC at the time, but you know, I did have 3D modeling at the time. But at that point, it wasn't really because I knew I was going to change several of the things. So, like the legs, I knew I had to shorten some of the legs from Theo Jensen's idea of the Strand Beast to make it look a little bit more organic as it was walking. So rather than just cutting, you know, rather than modeling something, I just started cutting out parts and kind of getting an idea. What happens when I shorten this?
was that one
Hmm.
made out of
This
steel
no, it's wood.
or
It
was
just looks
wood?
like it because I painted it. You know,
Yeah.
I you know, I just painted it with you know, stuff to make it look like it was metal.
Yeah, well, it
So
was convincing because it's in the intro, one of your intro clips. So,
yeah,
um, Yeah.
Yeah, I went as far as even like I took some caulking and stuff and went over
Uh-huh.
some of the areas and like did little bubble caulking and then painted it silver so it looked like somebody welded like was welding little dimes on there. So,
Mhm.
Oh,
you
cool.
know, yeah, yeah, it was fun. It was a fun project just to mess around with, but so I mean it just depends on the project
Mm-hmm.
and the workflow and there's a whole lot of different variables, but after a certain time you get a feel for a project and what that project is going to take, so you have a methodology for approaching different styles of projects. And in my case, like when I'm doing Adirondack chairs, I know I'm going to make plans for them, so I'll do a whole complete 3D model,
Mm-hmm.
before we even cut the first piece of wood.
Right.
How many
But
different versions of the Adirondack chair have you done over the years, if you had to think
70,
about
80,
that?
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a lot. I have several that are still on the market. There's some designs that you can probably made by Lakeland Mills that you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy and
Hmm.
put together as kits that I've been involved in either the design or the manufacturing process for
Hmm.
those. Um, and then we've done a lot of different ones over the years. And I have a couple that are like my favorites that we're going to be putting. That's one of the reasons I brought a videographer on. One of the things we're going to be doing is creating courses instead of just here's some plans. Like here's an entire course on how, because some of these builds are what I would call intermediate to expert level builds
Hmm.
that involve like steam bending and some interesting joinery and stuff like that. So we'll be doing full on courses for those. And a couple of the ones that I have one that I'm very, very fond of. It weighs like 11 pounds and it will hold my 400 pounds,
Yeah.
you
Wow.
know, but it's a very sharp looking chair. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll be working on stuff like that. So lots of fun stuff.
That's awesome. I think the courses format for projects, I think that's something a lot of folks are interested in. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's, the 10 to 15-minute format videos are awesome just for inspiration. But sometimes going into detail why you're making all these different decisions, I think is very helpful for
Yeah.
for people who are actually trying to make it. Sometimes you want to be inspired and then you maybe make a simpler version of it. But when you're trying to go in and do all these V-carve inlays or whatever, you want
Yeah.
to be able to follow every step.
Yep. And especially when you start talking about like if you think about it from the Windsor chair standpoint, like Windsor chair technology. I'm fortunately enough to have Peter Galbert actually train me on Windsor, chair technology. He's one of the best people in the world at Windsor chair stuff. When you start talking about technology into those kind of builds, there's a real technology behind it in the fact that you're using different materials because different materials have or different woods because each wood has a different strength and it has a different ability to like be more comfortable or be more
Mm-hmm.
be stronger or bend more or
More
so you can
durable.
build right more durable. So you can take this really delicate looking Windsor rocker that looks like if you put somebody like me on it, it would just explode. Um, and I could do cartwheels on the thing and it would be fine. But
Yeah.
that really comes down to it. So you can't. There's no way that there's no way anybody could glean enough information off a 15-minute video to really understand the dynamic of how
Mm-hmm.
those materials all work together. And the same thing would be like this chair I want to do the one that we happen to be focusing on now. Um, there's no way I could put all that information into a 15-minute video. It's not possible. But
Yeah.
it's the one. It's you could do it wrong really easily. So there really needs to be not just a plan set, but a course available saying, look, this is how this joiner works, why it works, and what materials you're going to use here, and how you get the most out of that material. Not just you don't just cut something, you manipulate it, so
Mm-hmm.
to make it strong and work for what you're trying to do. So there's all that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome. I know I've been thinking about material selection a lot lately. We're working on our own online CNC site. It'll have an intro to CNC section and then some more advanced courses. But thinking about
see
material
you.
selection, what's that?
I said I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it'll be a couple more months, but I really want to make sure it's basically a glorified YouTube playlist, but I wanted to incorporate a variety of um, different learning styles. If folks prefer text based learning or video or both, and try to have it in an organized order, because otherwise it's you're bouncing around from video to video trying to string all those pieces together, but having this in a specific order thought through for you so you can focus on that, and then you have a strong foundation base to grow off of. I understand the fundamentals of zeroing now. Okay, now I can learn about how to apply zeroing and why to make those choices. Now I can learn about toolpaths, or now I can learn about like what is G code, and I have a place to start from. So okay, well, so speaking of learning and teaching, you really are like a pioneer in teaching woodworking and teaching CNC fabrication. I know that your kids are always there in the shop with you. Do they really like making things? And have they been in the shop a lot? I guess this summer. I mean, well, now probably more
Yeah.
than ever, huh?
Yeah, we're so lucky because we have 3 acres and we have chickens and gardens and animals and things to keep those
Yeah.
kids busy. So they really have they have it pretty good. They're not feeling the walls closing
Hmm.
in, so to speak. And we are still very careful with with everything being the way it is. So
Hmm.
we're always they don't leave much, we don't leave much, the whole
Yeah.
9 yards.
But they have
Um,
this whole world around them to
but they
learn
do,
from, and
yeah. And they constantly want to build stuff, which is like the heartbreak of my world because it's like if I could like make a living off of building nothing but cool projects with my kids, that's all I'd be doing.
yeah.
You'd never see me again, but that's not the way it works. So it's like we can build something today, Dad. I'm like, no, dude, I gotta work. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, and it's hard to when
Hmm.
they come out, they're bright eyed and excited, and they want to do something with you, and it's all you want to do. But it's like I can't,
Yeah, for
but.
sure.
But yes, to answer the question, we do get to spend some time. We talk a lot about projects and we do crafts and stuff in the house when
Yeah.
it's raining. When we try to get some shop time in, it's just so hard to get take away from the shop to just like shut it all down and get kids out there and do like a birdhouse or
Right.
talk about CNCs. And my kids, they love CNCs. They know exactly what it is. They know the difference between different bits and what they do. And so they're very excited about it. They think it's really cool that they can draw something. We can take a picture of it, scan it into a program, and the CNC can cut it out. They're like, what?
Yeah.
It's, they love that.
I
So
think CNC and 3D printing is going to, I mean, I see it so often in kids' maker spaces in schools. Like there's a technical high school near here, and they have a full fabrication makerspace shop. And I mean, these kids
right,
are going to be so good at digital fabrication,
Hmm.
because they were born with technology at their fingertips. They know how the interfaces, and they could draw something on their iPad and then send it to the laser cutter. Okay, and then it's done. They pull it out, and it's amazing. So I'm excited for to kind of see the next generation in the world of digital fabrication.
yeah. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see this generation too. So, I think that's one of the reasons like we wanted to start doing we call
Mm-hmm.
it 3D to CNC courses here at Makers Playground HQ,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not as scary as people who've never used one think they are.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I put a course together where you can come hang out with me with a day. I'll have you do basic 3D modeling and running a
Mm-hmm.
CNC before the day's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not difficult, and I can do that with anybody. I don't care if you're 95 years old or if you're 15.
Yeah.
There's nothing that complicated about it. Now, there's a lot of information about, like, it's back to the car analogy, and I think I actually talked to you about this at Make a Workbench Con.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all drive cars, all of us, for the most part. There might be a few exceptions, but we all know how to drive a car. We jump in it. We don't think a lot about it. We throw a key in the ignition. We step on the gas and we go. We don't know why it goes. We don't understand the multi-port sequential fuel injection system that's built into there.
Hmm.
We don't understand that, but we know it goes.
Yeah.
Now, a CNC is a little bit intimidating because that multi-port sequential fuel injection system is right in your face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't. That doesn't matter.
You're right.
I can get you driving that car inside of a day. You know, and once you know how to drive the car, you start learning the nuances. You start learning about feeds and speeds and about different bits and what they can do and why certain bits do things differently, and why you can cut plywood at 340 inches a minute half depth and you can only do that at 280 inches a minute with walnut, you know, on a particular machine, given the spindle size and its, you know, its ability to handle torque and loads. You know, those things come. You know, that's like when you first learn to drive a car, it's a little awkward making sharp turns or parallel parking, but sooner or later, you don't even think about it anymore. It
Right.
becomes second nature. 3D
Yeah.
modeling, CNC tech, it is the exact same thing. You learn how to drive the car and then you get good at it,
Yeah.
you know? And it's not scary once you know that you're not going to break the machine. Like one of the first things I do, I'm like, I run this machine right into the Z or right into the zero. I'll say, look, I just slammed it. Nothing happened, you
Yeah.
know? And so every once in a while, if I'm feeling really floofy and I got an old bit I want to abuse, I'll break the bit intentionally just to show them what happens. You know, you're not going to hurt the machine. So,
Yeah.
you know, you might not do your hold down right and have a piece of material that doesn't like to stay where it's supposed to, or you might break a bit and you might run it into a Z or, you know, one of its axes, but the machine's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So you get them past that fear, you know, because they just dumped a few grand into a machine, which, you know, for a lot of people is a serious investment. They're worried
Yeah.
about that kind of stuff. So you get them past that, and then you show them that 3D modeling is really basic, and show them how to make a square, and then you show them how to put it into, you know, Vetric and how to write the code, because that's super stinking easy. I mean, import, push one button, hit two buttons, and export,
Yeah.
and you're cutting on the CNC machine. It's that fast.
Yeah.
So once you learn how to make a square and you learn how to make a circle and you understand what a pocket is, you know, Bob's your auntie. You're building cabinets. So, you know, and so that's one of the things I think, you know, and I think that's where some of the misnomer, some of that fear comes from. Why you see some of that talk out in the world is because there is. It's just fear. They don't understand, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like that's not real woodworking. I'm like, you want to bet, buddy?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it is taking concepts and tools that you already have in the shop, like, okay, you use trim routers or you use handheld routers. This is the same thing. I'm just telling it where to go. And I think it's
yeah,
funny, you know, when you talk about things like cabinet making, the CNC has really made it possible for me to make cabinets, you know, because I can't necessarily manage a large sheet of plywood by myself, but I can put it on the machine and program it and design it exactly all the joints that I want to do, pull them off and assemble, build it. So I feel like it makes processes available to folks who can't necessarily do it in the traditional sense, but then also vice versa. You know, it works both ways.
yeah. Yeah, and you know, I get people saying, "Well, CNC is not a tool; it's a robot." And I'm like, "No, it's a tool." I said, "You know, just like any other tool, whether it's a hammer, a plane, a chisel, a tape measure. You remove the human element, all that son of a gun does is sit there. It's not going to do a
Yeah.
damn thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's you that makes the tool work. Period. You know, so that you know, so we get." You know, we got that little rant out of the way. Sorry, guys. But
Yeah. No,
you
no,
know,
no. That's
you know,
great.
you get where I'm coming from, and you know,
Yeah.
I think when we start taking people and show them that they're not going to break the machines, and there's nothing to be afraid of, that it's easy to drive the car or to
Yeah.
start driving the car, and that like anything else, when you started out woodworking, you know, and the first time you held a circular saw in your hand, you couldn't cut a straight line to save your life, you know, but after a little bit of practice, maybe a little bit of advice and some tips and repetitiveness, all of a sudden, like I can cut, you know, after 30 years, I can cut a straight line that's damn near what you see come off of a table saw without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Corey and I talk about this a lot, how to remove like the intimidation factor, how to have confidence in your first project and how to really have confidence in the workflow and removing the intimidation. It's a big thing, especially for new users, and many of you know, avid CNC customers haven't necessarily had a CNC machine before. So that is definitely a big goal of ours, is to make it accessible as a learning process and to teaching CNC for everyone, no matter age or background or career background.
or gender or, you know, whatever. I mean, it's accessible to everybody now. I mean, it's getting in, you know, I know people say it's expensive, but you know what? Those same people are driving $70,000 trucks. You know,
Sure.
if you're driving a $70,000 truck and have a
Hmm.
$10,000 computer and live in a $300,000 house, do not tell me a CNC is expensive. So,
Yeah.
because they're just not.
Hmm.
They're really not. They're getting more and more affordable, and they're getting more and more accessible. And this is the number one reason why I love you guys so much, and why I think what you guys do is, and I see there's nothing but potential for you guys and what your business model and the way you guys are going, because you can start small. You
Mhm.
don't have to go out and buy the biggest, baddest machine that you guys buy, you guys build. You can start small, and that machine can pay for itself. You can literally, in a couple of years, and that's if you're just sloughing off and getting a few jobs here and there, make that machine pay for that 5x10 with the big spindle and all the pro gizmos and gadgets.
Hmm.
Mhm.
You start with a 2x4 or a 4x4, which is really accessible, and then you start doing projects, start
Yeah.
doing signs. You want to talk about making money? Sign projects they're just phenomenally
Hmm.
good, and they're easy.
Yeah.
So, you can start there and you can just build onto it, man. Just build it, get your 4x4, get your 4x8, get your 5x10, whatever. Those machines pay for themselves once you have one, and
Yeah, for sure.
you start doing a few projects, everybody will be knocking on your door,
Yeah.
you know.
Sign
So,
making is a really great way to get into that business. Corey and I had a live stream about CNC sign making. I will link to it in the description below later on. And it's a two-part because some technical difficulties, but we do talk about how to kind of get into it and why it's such a great place to start your CNC fabrication business. It's
mm,
also a lot of fun. You learn a lot of different processes along the way. You get to make custom different things and try out different materials and different finishes and all of that.
And you
yeah,
get to represent your business and the quality of components you make in your community with your name usually right next to that sign. And when you talk about wanting to generate business, the best way to generate business is by positive word of mouth. And
yep,
Mm.
especially if you're targeting local customers, I mean, it really is a phenomenal way to exactly pay for your upgrades. And this
yeah.
machine
And
definitely.
if you have any doubt what these guys are talking about, what Sammy and Corey are talking about, call a sign company, ask them to make you a 2 foot, let's say a 2 foot by 4 foot wooden sign with a simple
Hmm.
logo on it, and
Hmm.
maybe some kind of textured background and 3 colors of paint. Ask them. You're not going to hear any one of them say less than $2,500. You
Yep.
won't.
Grab a picture off Google and send them an email with a, hey, I
Yep.
want it to look like this and I want it to say this and I was hoping it would be this size.
Yep.
Get a quote because you're exactly right, Izzy. If you really understand the value proposition of sign making, it is a marketing and expense, and businesses are willing to pay for marketing because it
Yep.
works.
Yeah. I've had and worked with businesses that have paid $50,000, $60,000 for a sign to go in front of their businesses. That is not
Yep.
a joke. And
Mhm.
they're 4x8 signs. Granted,
Hmm.
some of these have cracked glass and interior lighting, but
Mm.
still, I mean, my first house was 50 grand. Come on. So
Yeah. Um,
I'm old, guys.
while we're on the subject of kind of the business of making, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's working on starting a fabrication business? I see that uh, you have a variety of income streams with, the videos and I know some things are obviously more profitable than others. Some are to
Sure.
advertise other elements of the business, but
Hmm.
you do the tiny house builds, you do custom installs, custom furniture, and that sort of thing. So, kind of,
Mhm.
I guess, aside from sign making, what other kind of advice would you give to someone who's starting out?
Well, right now we're, first of all, look at things that sell. Signs sell, Adirondack chairs sell. If you're into the furniture thing, vanities, vanities sell well, sideboards sell well. Stay away from bedroom sets, although they sell well. There's a ton of work and require a lot of space and resources. All those things sell well. And what's the monogram business?
Hmm.
I had a cat got a small CNC, and he was like cutting out monograms out of 1/8 plywood and painting them, and he was making like 70 grand a year on the side doing monograms because he got tied in with a wedding, with like a wedding
Oh,
planner
wedding
community.
industry, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm like, legitimately, come on, guys. 70 grand a year in your spare time cutting out monograms on a small CNC. The business is there. And I think the one thing I would say, the biggest thing I would say is don't get caught up in being all about one thing. If you want to be a woodworker, then be a woodworker. Don't be, you can specialize if you want to. And if there's industry for that specialization, then great. But if it's not, if you're building beer koozie holders and you're not selling them, build something else, man.
I think also diversifying it so you're not so dependent on one stream. Kind of what I've seen happen to fabrication companies. Say, for example, in Portland, we have Nike and Adidas and Columbia all based here. So they
Right.
will source different fab shops to build out store fixtures and that sort of thing, which is awesome. But just be careful that your business isn't fully dependent on only Nike jobs. Because if anything were to happen where they're like, oh, we're going to choose this other shop for the next round, now there goes 90%. So you want to make sure to diversify the clientele that you're working with. So that's something that I would recommend to anybody, and kind of what I've experienced in working in fab shops in Portland. Here.
And things change geographically. If you look across the U.S., there's different things that are going to be a lot stronger in other places. If you're close to oceanfront, ocean style furniture, painted, painted dull earth tones and fluorescent colors, that's going to sell.
Yeah.
If you're near lakes, you look at the canoe style shelving, that'll sell. So there's this, look at your demographic, understand what your demographic looks like, understand the diversity of your demographic. It doesn't necessarily have to be one particular, like I'm selling stuff on Facebook only, look at how you can reach out to the communities, talk to real estate people. Real estate people are really good at word of mouth stuff. Wedding communities are really good at word of mouth stuff. Small community businesses, like if you get into like the West Village over here and you do a sign for the West Village, everybody else would want one too. So, that kind of stuff and just don't be afraid, go and knock on somebody's door, pick up the phone and make a phone call.
Yeah.
Stay away from the emails. The emails are easy to ignore. When you're in somebody's face, they cannot ignore you. So, pick up the phone or go knock on their door. Emails are a really happy, safe place for people because it's like comfortable and it doesn't really feel like rejection if you don't get an answer back. But just don't be afraid. Just go up and say, hey, I got a CNC. I do this kind of stuff. Be happy to help you out with anything.
Yeah. So Travis has a question. What marketing route would you take in sign/wall art? And I've been starting a business mostly based on custom 3D carvings and looking to expand. So, I guess this is just exactly what we were just talking about is, maybe right now, don't go in person all the time, but do call. Like, I think it is word of mouth. From what I've done in Portland here is, I still make signs on the side, but when I used to work in a full-time fabrication company, after I left, those clients would seek me out specifically and asked me to keep doing them on the weekends just because they could trust me. And their friends own businesses. If you know one food cart owner and you go and you find him like, hey, your sign needs to be replaced. It's not in good shape. Let me do it for you for half as much. And then just recommend me to all your other friends and your other small businesses. Soon then I made 3 other signs the next month. So tapping into that community and creating genuine, authentic relationships with those people, that's how you maintain that business. Because, I made that one sign for the food cart. Well, they needed a second sign for above the food cart, or they needed tables built outside, or they needed serving trays, whatever. Oh, and now they're going to go be in a brick and mortar. Okay, well, awesome. You know who they're going to call? Me. So that's kind of the recommendation I would give to Travis.
Yeah, and the other thing to do too, it just depends. Wall art you're talking about a huge, vast, could mean so many things, could be so many different types of industries. If you want to get into business where you're trying to do wall art for like automotive industry that's just, you can get real specialized when you talk. Yeah. So it just depends on who you're trying to approach. Another really great way back on the business side of it is if you get a hold of the local Better Business Bureau and talk to them about what kind of meetings they have every month. a lot of times, a lot of business owners will get together and have particular meetings, and sometimes, a lot of times, believe it or not, guess what they're about? They're about signage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So so
Well,
just become
and
part of
now
it.
more than ever, businesses need up-to-date communication to their customers. What's
Yeah.
expected when you come in the door? Where do you go? How do you go in there? And so putting yourself in a position where you said, hey, if you
Yeah.
need to change any signage or communication, I can make custom
Mm-hmm.
signs within 48 hours. That
Hmm.
could be a huge opportunity where maybe you don't get a job today, but they keep your business card because they know if something comes up in 48 hours, they can have new signage at their facility. That can be a very easy way to have a very high profit job go through
Yeah,
the shop. And
and
that's
I think
because,
you just touched on something important too. We're not just talking about the big signs that hang out front, y'all.
yeah,
Signs, interior stuff like we just did some signs last. And granted, it's been a year and a half ago, but we did a bunch of signs that said like community, network, blah blah blah, and that were hung in a rustic furniture store in
yeah,
Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's all those. There's the bathroom signs. Come on, I mean, if they want something specialized that's made out of some fancy wood grain, or they even if it's out of just color core and they just need this, a lot of times they don't know where to get it.
Yeah, and
They
look
can get
for
it from you.
problems that need to be solved too. Like when you go to the grocery store, I've been to maybe 3 different grocery stores in my area in the last 2 months. And the ones that I've had the best experience at shopping at are the ones that are very clear in directing customers for a safe channel in which to have a shopping experience right now during
Mhm.
a coronavirus, so you can know what to do. Because I'd get very overwhelmed when I all of a sudden see, like, I'm walking down the aisle but there's a small sticker on the ground that says walk that direction and I'm walking the opposite direction. Now I'm panicking because I went the wrong way, but that was not my fault. It was because the the user interface of the store, if you will, was not well designed. So
clear.
look for those problems that need to be solved. You can come up with the solution and then pitch it to like the 10 different grocery stores in your area. If even only one of them says yes, that's a win, right? Also, Travis, in regards to marketing, be sure that you have a social media presence, and consistency is key, right? So making sure you post good photos, not a blurry phone photo. Take your time. Make sure you have clear
Yes, don't do what Izzy
communication.
does.
Okay, well, if you're Izzy, you can do what Izzy does, but we're not
Yes,
Izzy yet.
that's
Don't
right.
So,
don't do what I do.
yeah.
I'm like,
And
snap. It's good enough. Click.
well, whether or not you do that, it is, I think important to put something out there. And um, your website, Squarespace is easy to use, not sponsored, but I think that doing something easy to let your communicate with the people, tell them what you can do. You're like, I
Yeah.
can make signs, but I can also make custom furniture. How are they going to know you do that? They don't know. You
Your
have to tell
website,
them.
your website is your portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
really. So, and your internet, your social media should be directing everything to your website. So
Yeah.
if you're posting something like, "Hey, new project's up. Here's a little, you know, ditty of it. You can check out the full shoot on my website or whatever." Always be directing traffic to your site, and that should be your portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'd love to pivot and talk about your
mm-hmm.
garden a little bit,
Yeah.
Izzy, because we could sit here and talk about make it on the CNC all day long. But I'm learning a lot about gardening this year, and some of the techniques I'm watching you implement really are enlightening to me because I think you show scaling gardening in order to create a bounty exceptionally well. And so, talk about kind of maybe some of the plants that are doing phenomenal and your bounty is really great, and some that you're learning how to really kind of expand.
um, yeah. So a little bit background, guys. I was raised by hippies, and I'm not. That's not a joke. I was literally, my parents moved back then. It was called back to the earth, not off the grid like it is now. So we literally went back to the earth. We lived in a little ramshackle cabin my dad threw together with some scrounged materials, and we raised our own food. Most of our own meat we raised, most of our own gardens we raised. So I have some background in gardening. Um, and I have a love for it. I've been, on and off basically gardening whenever I could for the last 40 years. So and we take a few unique approaches to it. I like gardening in bags. I don't necessarily care for traditional gardening
Mm-hmm.
because I can control a lot more with bag gardening. I control how much nutrients a plant is getting, whether it's getting the right amount of calcium, the right amount of phosphorus, whether it's seeing all the trace minerals it needs. And after a while, you start kind of recognizing what a plant needs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It sounds like it's complicated, but it's really, really not. There's a couple things that you need to be good at, and one of them is just keeping an eye on your plants. And the other thing is understanding how to prune them and what pests to watch out for. And once you understand those things, the minerals and nutrients that they need are very basic. It's not complex. And in fact, we're working another iron in the fire.
Yeah.
I'm working with a gentleman on perfecting a nutrient base for an organic style nutrient base for doing such things. And it's literally as easy as dropping a pill in a 5-gallon bucket of water and then putting them on your plants. So,
Yeah, awesome.
so we're working on that. But I think so. We're in the background. We're working on a few things like the gardening thing. um, I always feel a little bit silly when I say this, but I want to feed the world. I want to teach the world to basically feed themselves. Teach a man to fish. He'll eat.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach him to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. So we're developing some systems. We're like looking at cardboard as a growing medium and how that effectively works. And we're looking at the nutrient bases and how we can make that stuff work. And we're even looking at growing systems and how we can use modern technology, additive and subtractive, to really quickly and inexpensively. So
Yeah.
uh, to bounce around a little bit here, I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm going to use your platform for a second, and that's sustainability.
Yes.
I get sick and tired of hearing large corporations and talk about sustainability and what that looks like, and organic. They don't know what organic. They wouldn't know what organic is if it bit them in the butt. Their idea of sustainability is not what sustainability is. They're right now. I'm looking at programs of like building places that you grow things indoors where they're selling heads of lettuce for $17 a piece. They have to because it costs so much to set up those systems because they don't, all they're doing is like looking at, I'm going to buy that, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to throw this together, and I just spend $1 million to grow 30,000 head of lettuce, and that doesn't work that way. So with the type of stuff that you guys do, we take your machines, we take materials that are accessible and cheap and readily available, and we turn them into a growing system that costs $150.
Yeah.
That you can literally grow 30 heads of lettuce in every month. You could feed a family of 4 for on something that it costs you $150, $200 to build, using whether it's using CNC tech or using things that were made on CNCs to accomplish it.
Mm-hmm.
And then where we come in is we're showing people how to do it, and we're showing people how they can do things like grow in cardboard. Literally, the stuff that Amazon ships all your crap to you in, you can take that and grow food in it. So, for about $20 a year, you could literally grow enough lettuce to feed more than a family of 4.
Yeah.
In the cardboard that comes to your door with less than $150, $200 setup.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that we're taking the gardening thing. The gardening thing, I look at it and I forget what it is, and I know I read the numbers some time ago, and I'm not even going to pretend like I remember what it is. But if we all quit growing lawns and had a garden and set in front of our lawns, we would wipe out world hunger in 1 year. 1 year. If you stop growing a lawn and grow gardens,
Yeah.
it would be gone. There would be no such thing as world hunger. We could do it in a single year if everybody would just get online, go, okay, buy some of those stupid bags Izzy talked about. What nutrients do I need? I mean, I'm growing in less than a 30 by 30 square foot garden 30 by 35 square foot garden in my yard. I'm growing right now. By the end of the year, I'll have grown 3 tons of produce. 3 tons.
Yeah.
6,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. That can feed an awful lot of people. we're giving baskets away daily here, just giving them away to our friends, neighbors, stuff. We're going to be at a point here in about 2 weeks where we will no longer be able to give enough away, where we'll have to start taking it down to the food bank and giving it to them.
Awesome. They always need fresh produce. I mean, I think I love about following your channel and your gardening journey is that you have developed many different processes that are accessible to people no matter where they are. If it's growing in your basement and you only have this much space, okay, well, let's make a bookshelf where you can grow lettuce on, or here are outdoor bins or rain collection systems. So it's accessible for different people in different parts of the world. And, we're here in the Pacific Northwest, and Corey and I each have our own gardens, and different plants are successful in different places, but we can make vegetables that grow better in California or North Carolina here if we implement these other systems like growing in our basement,
Right. Yeah, and you can grow indoors very effectively. Now, there's some limitations to it. You can only grow greens indoors unless you have some fancy lighting, which we're also happen to be involved in a group working on that to make that more accessible. But that's back to the accessibility, the sustainability thing. Sustainability comes from accessibility, and without accessibility, there's nothing that's sustainable. So I heard a crack upstairs, guys. Sorry if you hear a little crying. I apologize. Our mission in what we're doing behind the scenes now, and we're actually trying to plan a Kickstarter around it, is to bring that kind of stuff to make it so accessible and so ridiculously easy that you would be silly not to do it. Literally, we take all the complications away. Like what nutrients do I need to feed this? How do I? It's gone. You take this 5 gallons of water, you put this pill in it, you dump it in here, and you throw some seeds in this cardboard that you just mulched up, and 30 days later you have really good fresh lettuce that you're eating and sustaining your family with. So that's only one step in the right direction, but it's a big step. And the idea is to be able to do that without having to go buy $5,000 indoor growing system. That's just silly. You don't need to do that,
Well, invest that into your CNC machine, and then not only your growing systems, but your furniture and some business opportunity is available.
Yeah, and you look at CNC technology, and it's so young right now. I mean, when you look at it, Corey, I mean, they came out with the first CNC machines back in the 60s, and they were these giant, beefy, line by line. Yeah, they cut straight lines. That's what they did,
Yeah.
And then they got 70s, got a little better, 80s, a little more, and then we're less than 100 years old. And that's young. Imagine what CNCs are gonna look like in 40 or 50 years from now. I think everybody will have some version of additive and subtractive technology in their homes before long. It's just going to make all of our lives easier.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Richard brought up, there's a thing called FarmBot, and it's basically placing a CNC right over your garden bed. It's a really interesting thing. I'd encourage everyone to look it up. But the way that you can, customize your machine is really interesting, and seeing people become more and more creative with that. It's super fun, seeing what Bernie is doing on his machine. And I'm excited to see how that works out, and
Yeah, speaking of which, he's been having some fun over there. I've been kind of paying attention. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So, and granted, coming from the pro side, we've seen blades on CNCs for a very long time now.
Yeah.
That's just something they put on them. Obviously they're not really intended for doing decorative element or that kind of thing. They're meant to cut out cabinet parts and fast.
Yep. Panel size.
But it's still really cool. I mean, it's fun watching him, how he's writing the code and the speeds that he's running them at and what he's doing with the stacked dados and stuff. So Bernie, thumbs up, buddy. That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
Wish I was there to play with you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, send us a sample. Awesome. Well, Izzy, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are, so honored to have you and to learn so much from you. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I know you got some chairs coming up. Any other plans or projects that we can point people towards in the near future to check out or maybe bring into their shop?
Yeah, we're doing some new style I designed a new style Adirondack chair. We had like I mentioned earlier, we had the tiny home community wants a bunch of chairs that happen to be right on a river, and they also do tubing and other entertaining, so they wanted a bunch of chairs. And obviously they're on a budget, so we had to redesign some chairs to match their budget, which is always a little bit fun to do.
Mhm.
But I thought it would be fun to make a video about the process and also put the plans out there. So this is an easier and just an easier build than the Adirondack chair that which I call my modern Adirondack chair. That's been getting a lot of buzz. So this is a little bit different than that, just a quicker build. And we're actually going to go through and do a video on the production, like what does a production look like for something like that, where it's not, obviously we're not bringing in big machines. They're going to cut out a million parts. We're doing it on just our regular shop tools.
Yep.
And how we can put together 20 or, basically where the goal is to put together 70 over the next week. But we're just going to go through and build like 5 or 6 just to show the process and why things work a certain way and how to get things done quickly and all the fun stuff. So
Fantastic.
Awesome.
So
Well, we'll
that's
be sure
that's
to
coming
share
up.
all of that as soon as it's
Thank you.
public.
We have
and
some. I can't say it in public, but I'll tell you guys offline. We have some really crazy fun stuff ideas with the Avid too.
Mhm.
I've been working. It just so happens my videographer is also pretty affluent on CNC tech, CNC machines and with Fetric and Aspire. So we're planning some fun little projects with that stuff too. So we're pretty excited about that. I will hold on to that though until
Yeah.
Mhm.
we can so
Well, let's go get those out in the world, and then we'll have you back on here and we can talk about them.
that would be great. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you again so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. You guys are always a hoot.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Izzy.
you. And thank you everyone who's joined us today. We appreciate all of you being here. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our support team at support@avidcnc.com. Also, if you'd like to tag us in any of your posts or photos, we're just at avidcnc.
Yeah.
Thanks all for being here. I'll see you later.
Thanks,
Bye
everyone.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.